Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of United Way for Southeastern Michigan's What's the Word Wednesday, where we share important resources and have vibrant discussions about topics that matter most to you. My name is Shayla Zimmerman, and today we're going to talk about the importance of caring for our young people and empowering them with public speaking and debate skills, while also rooting their leadership through teachings from significant past and present civil rights leaders. A few reminders for today's discussion. We hope to have time for a few questions from the audience, so please put your questions in the chat box on Zoom or into the comments section if you're watching on Facebook. Closed captions are enabled in Zoom and Facebook Live. To turn them on, please click on the Show Captions button at the bottom of your screen. 2 days ago, our nation celebrated the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. while honoring his fight for human rights and social justice. Today, we want the generation of tomorrow to expand on Dr. King's legacy and use their voices to amplify and address many of the issues that Dr. King stood against, such as racism, poverty, and militarism. I'd like to introduce you to our speaker for today, Jerjuan Howard. Jerjuan Howard is the founder and executive director of Umoja Debate League and Umoja Village. He is also the author of the book, A Message to Black College Students, a book used to empower the Black community while addressing the role of Black college students in community progression. He is an educator for Detroit Public Schools Community District, and as a graduate from Western Michigan University with a major in criminal justice, Jerjuan was the president of the university's Black Student Union. Welcome, Jerjuan. We're so excited to have you on today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Please feel free to take it away.
Absolutely. So first, I want to say good morning to everyone on the call. And thank you for spending a little bit of time with us this morning to learn a little bit more about what I do and how it ties to several civil rights leaders of the past. So I'm going to tell you all a story, essentially, the origin story of both Umoja Village and Umoja Debate League and how I kind of got to this point and what is my goals, intent, and strategy behind what we do and why we do it with Umoja. So the title of this whole entire presentation I have here is called The Origin Story of Umoja, Holistic Impact, Solution-Based and Community-Driven Initiatives. Next slide for me, please. So a big part of all of this, how this even started before Umoja Village or Umoja Debate Team was fully run and had programming, my whole entire goal went to help my community somehow, some way. And so this started off by me building these free little libraries for my community on the west side of Detroit, the Puritan Avenue corridor. I knew that I really, really like reading now, but growing up, I wasn't really into books that much. And I've seen these free little libraries in the suburbs and Oak Park and Southfield and places like that, but I never saw them in my community. And I always thought to myself, what would I have just walked past one of these? And I might have picked up a book that would change my life a lot earlier than what I did. So my brother and I took it upon ourselves, went to Home Depot out of our own pocket, watched a couple do-it-yourself videos, and we started building these free little libraries and planting them on different blocks in different areas in our community, again, with the goal to increase literacy, while also, kind of beautifying it in a way as well. So this is kind of the spark to a lot of the other things I'm going to speak about throughout this presentation. But this was the summer of 2021. I graduated from Western Michigan in December of 2020. Came home that February 2021. Kind of working on Umoja at this moment, but not all the way fully there. But again, wanting to be of some solution to my community. I didn't have the funds to build a whole library, but I did have the funds to, get some materials and start building these. Next slide, please. So continuing on, while I was building these free little libraries, I actually did file the 501c3 paperwork to start Umoja Debate Team at the time, right? And as you all know, it's called Umoja Debate League now. I want to get into that a little bit as well. But debate changed my life. In 10th grade, I had a course at Renaissance High School, Miss Pamela Norris, and I was kind of a shy kid back in the classroom. I always had good grades, but it was like, you talk to me, I would talk to you back. But debate changed everything for me. It gave me some confidence, some self-expression skills, some critical thinking, some conflict resolution skills. It did a lot for me. And I wanted to give that back to Detroit youth somehow, some way. And so I started this off as just a volunteer thing with me. And in this photo, you see our vice president of the organization, Jada Morgan. But we started off literally by just volunteering at John R. King Middle School with about 5 or 6 kids, teaching them debate, body language when speaking, eye contact, voice projection, tone, speaking pace, speaking cadence, right? All these different skills when it comes to speech etiquette. We were pouring this into this group of about 5 or 6 kids after school. So I'm still working a whole nother job. Jada is as well. And we're going from our job and racing to get to the school to teach the kids debate with no funding, right? With no funding behind us. It's all out of pocket. So that one school, right? Principals Talk. The program was successful in that one school, and that turned into 4. So then that's kind of where the story of Umoja Debate League, I'm sorry, begins to come into play. Because these 4 schools that we had, I was no longer the primary teacher or debate coach, you want to call it that. We had to hire staff to be at these different locations. And once a month, these teams met up to compete against each other under our league. So we would assign topics, the whole 9. But I think I'm kind of getting ahead of the story. Can you go to the next slide for me? Right. So, and I was getting ahead of the story. So before we even got to the 4 schools, right? So that was the spring of 2022. The debate team started at John R. King. That summer, we had parents tell us, hey, we want our kids to be involved, but it was after school program. And if your child didn't go to that specific school, they kind of were excluded from the program because it was after school program at select schools that we partner with. So, in an effort to open up the program to students who might go to charter schools but still needed the benefits of our program, we made a free 8-week debate summer camp. And we partnered with Detroit Public Library. Again, at this point, no funding. I mean, like no funding. The curriculum was created in-house. A good friend of mine sponsored some T-shirts for us. Detroit Public Library, like I said, gave us the space. Parkman Branch Library, huge shout out to them. And Miss Tracy Massey over there, she showed a lot of love, and she's a big part of what we've built up to this point. Anyways, that summer program had about 10 to 15 kids who weren't a part of the original program at John R. King, but it was great. We had trips to U of M. We had partnerships where, U of M, their librarians came in and taught the kids how to properly research topics, things of that sort. Here are some of the photos that we had from that summer program. This is our very first one. We had a second summer program, of course, to become an annual thing. Last year, just stay here for a second. Last year, 2023, and it was no longer at Parkman Branch Library. It transitioned to something much larger. So this group of about 10 kids at the summer program turned into 50, and we had it at UD Mercy School of Law, right? And so one of the goals of Umoja Debate League is to produce a pipeline of lawyers, leaders, and change makers. All right. So, we want to train them already to be in these type of environments, such as law schools, such as hanging around lawyers and judges, the whole 9. So I don't have a slide on here with new photos, but this program did continue in the summer of 2023, and it grew again from 10 to now it was at 50. And this year we're probably projecting around 100 or so students being a part of our program. Next slide for me, please. And again, the whole entire slide is called Holistic Impact. The way I view every initiative that you're seeing right now is a piece of the puzzle to make our community better. One of the things that I really admire about the past civil rights leaders is that they didn't view our issues in silos. They didn't just only focus on education or only focus on economics or only focus on politics or only focus on the social aspects of our community, right? They tackled all of them in a variety of creative and different ways. So that is kind of a play I took out of their rule book or their playbook. I kind of implement that through the actions of the community that I have now. So what you're looking at now is the first inaugural 7-2 Day. So again, I grew up, I'm a native son of Detroit, and particularly the west side of Detroit. I grew up along Puritan Avenue. And so what 7-2 Day is an event that I created, day of events to showcase, that allows the community to showcase positive pride in their community. And so this day included neighborhood cleanups, 4 different cleanups. I believe about 5,000 pounds of trash were picked up that day. We had over 120 volunteers, 7 churches, and about 5 businesses. So this day of events, this first ever 7-2 day, included neighborhood cleanups at 4 different locations. It included Black-owned business highlights along the Puritan corridor. It included a barbecue cookout where we had bounce houses for the kids. The fire department showed up and they did their thing. Let the kids shoot the water hose and learn about what it means to be a firefighter. And we had an empowerment panel as well. In this empowerment panel, essentially different community leaders came together and had a conversation right in the middle of Puritan about what we can do to move the community forward in all aspects. This included religious leaders, business owners, just overall a wide variety of different folks coming together to see what can be done to move us all forward collectively. So that was the first ever 7-2 day. We had an additional one again in summer of 2023. This included a 5K. It included a 5K run up here. And the goal, again, is to showcase positive pride, but also, spark some ideas about how to change some things in this area. And the goal with that 5K that we had was to showcase that we can, actually exercise in our own communities. I have so many of my peers who, like my mom used to honestly take me to Oak Park sometimes to go walk on the track and things like that. And I always thought to myself, why can't we do that right here where we're at? Right? We can. And so the 5K was a testament to that. Next slide, please. So I got into this a little bit earlier in the presentation, but that one school at John R. King turned into 4. And those schools were John R. King, Paul Robeson, Malcolm X, Bethune, and Blackwell. Again, so these are some of the students in fall of 2022, spring of 2023 as well, that were part of our program. They met twice a week at their schools after school hours, where they were assigned with the 2 debate coaches per team, and they trained them up and they competed against one another. Some of these children that you see in this were extremely shy starting off, right? They were extremely nervous, didn't want to talk in front of anyone, nothing like that. And by the end, they were fierce debaters and very, very confident, and we're proud of that. Next slide for me. So continuing this on, in fall of 2022, September 15th, 2022, we purchased some land from Detroit Land Bank. And so these was 3 blighted side lots. They had trash there. It was liquor bottles, couches. It was like people was dumping stuff there. That's exactly what it was used for. We transformed that into what is now Umoja Village. Now, Umoja Village is an outdoor community space that features a community garden in which we give away all the produce that we grow. It features a 24-foot stage that the kids debate on during our summer program. It features benches that the community uses to have meetings. It features art all around it. And again, this goal is one of those, I know we use the term a lot, that Blight to Beauty initiative, but this is truly that. When we purchased this, we didn't, I believe we had about $400 in our account as Umoja Debate Team when we purchased this land. And we were able to get some wood from Home Depot that they donated to us. And we had maybe about 70 or so volunteers come out and build exactly what you see in front of you. So this is not a project that was backed by a lot of funding. We applied for a lot of different grants and we were unsuccessful in some of them. But it was just the drive and the effort and wanting to see the community in a better space that kind of led us to this point. Here's some of the produce that we've given away at our space. We've grown kale, cabbage, zucchini, bell peppers, tomatoes, onions, garlic. Not onions, I'm sorry, but garlic, a wide variety, okra. Some different things have been grown there. And our goal is, we can't feed the entire community with Umoja Village, but we can inspire those people to kind of, learn how to do it themselves. So this is Umoja Village. Next slide. And so now here we are right now, fall of 2023, spring now of 2024. And so we are now expanding into the high schools, right? And so initially we were inside these 4 middle schools that started the program Debate League. So this year, DPSCD, what we initially were doing was passing off our middle schoolers on to Detroit Urban Debate League, right? That was like our sister or our brother program, if you want to call it that. But right this year, I think they're on hiatus. They're reprogramming some things. So DPSCD said, hey, Jerjuan, there's this void in terms of high school level debate, right? Like what can be done? And so with this, we say, oh, of course, I mean, we would love to fill the spot, but funding is still an issue, right? And so DPSCD, I don't know if it was related to COVID relief funds or whatever the case may be, the after school budget just wasn't there. And so they wanted us to be there, but it was no way for us to pay our staff. Mind you, every single one of these people or every single school has to have one of our coaches there to train the kids up. So we fought teeth and nail. We were awarded a grant with the Michigan Department of Education, which allowed us to expand into these 20 middle and high schools now, who will all compete within our league this year. And a major part of all of this as well, they received some big prizes for this. There will be monthly debate tournaments that will happen starting in February, and what I call our championship tournament will take place in June. And the winner of that receives a trip to Ghana. The children going to get a trip to Ghana. So a lot of stuff at stake. In a nutshell, well, not in a nutshell, I guess I was pretty thorough with this explanation. That's what Umoja Debate League is, in Umoja Village, I'm sorry. And some of the principles that got us grounded and started with a lot of this different work, again, can be credited to the work of the civil rights leaders who have come before us. And I'm a student of history, right? I'm able to kind of guide myself and guide this organization as a result of knowing some of the hardships that have taken place before us and learning from some of those mistakes as well. So thank you for having me. I'm ready for any questions.
Thank you so much, Jerjuan. It is so cool. Every time I hear about the work that you do, I am amazed once again. So thank you so much for sharing all of that and empowering our youth. Um, I do want to just let our audience know that we do have time for questions. So if you have a question that you want to ask, feel free to throw it into the chat. But I'm curious, Jerjuan, you talk about having a pipeline or building a pipeline for lawyers, leaders, and change makers. You're growing over to 100 students, and you yourself are learning from history and lessons learned from previous civil rights leaders. What are some of the values that Dr. King displayed that you try to instill in your debaters? And are there any young people that come to mind for you that really embody civil rights leaders?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the main things is resilience and perseverance. When I think about Dr. King and everything that he went through, and even his legacy is people still kind of don't really understand what he stood for and how radical of a man he was
Absolutely.
to make the change that he felt that was necessary. I would say resilience and his perseverance in the face of adversity, regardless, he was steadfast in his approach, and he paid the ultimate sacrifice for his people. Right? That's honorable, regardless of anything else. That's honorable, and it takes an enormous amount of courage. And my hats off to him. We should always respect and honor that legacy. And you say any young leaders who I think embody that? A few, right? And so here in Detroit, there's a young man right now named Jamarie Hall. And what Jamarie Hall was responsible for is like this right to literacy lawsuit that DPSCD students took up to the state. And Jamarie Hall was one of the young men who spearheaded that. And, although Jamarie, he's not really, he gives speeches and stuff like that. He's not the type to get up and, give a speech for everybody. But the work he does behind the scenes and his steadfast commitment to bettering the lives of people that come after him at the young age that he is. I believe he's 23, 24 maybe. The young man is doing amazing work, and I think his passion, his persistence, his resilience, he was up against a lot of different things. A lot of different, that was a lawsuit against the whole entire education system, right? And he remained steadfast and is still steadfast in that effort. So he's a young man who instantly comes to mind when I think about the legacy of our past leaders.
Absolutely. That's incredible. So Jamar's really kind of leading that legal piece, if you will. And was he in your program as well for the debate
No,
league, or kind of like
no, no.
learning with you?
No, that's so. No, so Jamarie
Okay.
Hall, I met him officially, I think at 7-2 Day, 2022. That I'm thinking about it.
Awesome.
So yeah, so he wasn't a part of the program because again, the program started about 2 years ago. He was already graduated and stuff by then.
Makes sense.
But
Yeah.
through his work, I became familiar with him. He became familiar with me. We've tackled some issues here in the city of Detroit together, and that's how I became familiar with his work. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, two very strong, prominent, like local change makers coming together. I love that. Um, Thank you for that answer too. So I did get a question in the chat. I think our audience is curious about what inspired you to name the 7-2 day. And then also I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about Umoja's name too and how you came to name Umoja as well.
Absolutely. And that was, you started breaking up a little bit, but that was just a
Oh,
question in the chat. That's fine. You said the one about 7-2 day.
yeah. I'm sorry about that. So what inspired you to name the 7-2 day? And then also what was your inspiration to name Umoja?
Yep. So I'll go with Umoja first. So Umoja means unity in Swahili. It's also the first principle of Kwanzaa. So I wanted to name Umoja because, again, like the principles I think our communities need to move forward is unity, a variety of different collaborations across many different sectors. I mentioned it earlier, the education, leaders should be talking to the economic leaders, should be talking to political leaders. We need unity across all sectors to move forward. And the name behind 7-2 day is, for one, it was on July 2nd, right? That was the day that we chose. And then also, too, in this area, you would see like different things that would have 7-2 and stuff like that on them. And it just means literally Puritan. So
So naming a 7-2 day kind of after the neighborhood in Puritan Street.
yeah, yeah,
Very cool.
yeah,
Very
and giving it
cool.
a positive spin. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you named Umoja after unity. I think that is so true about our Detroit neighborhoods like coming together and really making change locally.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, like you talked a lot about like how can we relate and learn from Dr. King's teachings um, to injustices that are happening now in our communities and throughout the world. I know you talked a lot about making our work not siloed, right, in the way that civil rights leaders do, but are there any other ways we can relate and learn from our civil rights leaders?
Yes, I think there are plenty of ways we can learn from them, but one of my favorites is the use of the media. The use of the media the media is a powerful tool to get messaging across, to inspire others and to invoke change. Whether they knew it or not, and I'm sure they did, Dr. King and other leaders were masters of the media, right? And they kind of were great at knowing the media will be here to think that like something bad is going to happen, but really they're about to really give me a platform to share this message with thousands and millions of people, right? So understanding all the different pieces at place, I would say, when you're trying to make some type of change, and media is a huge part of that. So understanding how to work the media to get your narrative across to inspire others is something that I think we can learn from, as well as starting where you are, starting exactly where you are in the communities that you're in. I think we can learn from a lot of our civil rights leaders. Before anybody really started, with these large national type of movements, it was in Atlanta, right? Or it was in Detroit, or it was in Harlem, right? These movements started small and they grew. Sometimes I think with my generation in particular, we want to start just so big, and like our blocks and our communities aren't even where they should be at yet, right? And so I truly believe that when you focus on something small and really, really take it serious, it will grow. You will gain your support, right? Your like-minded individuals, and that's a testament to what the civil rights movement was.
Absolutely. I think it's so important that we build up local change makers too. Can you share with us a little bit about how you empower your young people to be local change makers?
Yep,
I love that
absolutely.
message of like building up our own block, our own neighborhoods first. So how do you get them involved in that?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that. So with Umoja, we have a community relevant and culturally relevant curriculum. And one of the things what that means is this summer we had, and this will happen in every one of our programs moving forward, but we have something called a zip code improvement speech, right? And so through debate, again, you're going to be speaking a lot. And so I came with this idea of a zip code improvement speech where I have the students do three things. That first thing is, one, identify your zip code that you live in. That's number two. Number two, identify three problems that exist within that zip code, right? And this is the part where the kids might say, I see trash needs to be picked up, or I see, I don't know, need more bike lanes. I'm sure no kids probably not saying that, but they would say, literally, they would give specific examples, right? I see abandoned houses, wherever the case may
They
be,
know
or
what we
trash.
need. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So they would say those three things. And my next step would be, how do you plan to solve them? Give me a plan of action to solve all three. All right. So what that does for a child is places them literally in the driver's seat to be the change they want to see in their communities. And we walk them through that process. So for example, say if a student does say that they have trash that needs to be picked up or their community to be cleaned, right? What's your plan of action? Step one, I would knock on doors of the block and see if I can get donations so I can buy trash bags. Step two, I would get a group of my friends to volunteer to clean up my community. Step three, I would have a post action meeting or something like that to discuss how much trash we picked up. When can we do it again? That small exercise right there literally places them in the driver's seat and gets their wheels turning on not even expecting nobody else to change their communities, but it puts them literally in the driver's seat to do it themselves. And so that small exercise, again, at a child level, translates well as they get older. Okay,
Wow.
now I know who my city council person is. Now I know what this
Mm.
position does. Now I know how to make this happen. It's just all sparking at a young age. But the zip code improvement speeches, to answer your question, um, is how we kind of tailor towards that. And our topics as well are tailored towards community and issues that exist right now within the city of Detroit and abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. And I love how you're like taking a local approach too, and kind of giving them the tools to address that issue on their own, and while with your support, of course.
Yeah, absolutely,
Love that.
absolutely. And we actually pair them up too. So one of our
Mm.
things that we did this summer with the kids that we had, along with those zip code improvement speeches, they got a chance to meet the city council president pro tem James Tate. And so they actually went to the Copenhagen Municipal Center. So a lot of these students who had questions about certain things and certain laws the city had, they had a chance to ask, the second in command of Detroit City Council those questions directly. And he was giving them real answers on who they should talk to. And so I think a lot of those students aren't even just thinking about making a change. They're going to they're doing it now.
They're doing it. Yeah,
Some of them are starting petitions, the whole nine. So yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I do have two more questions, and I hope our audience can stick with us. We're running a little over time, but I feel like these are really important questions to ask you. And you talked about the importance of literature and books, and it started with setting up free libraries. Um, are there any recommendations that you have for young people or even our audience, like any books that we should be reading to kind of inform us about our civil rights leaders?
Ooh, so many.
I know it's hard to choose.
Well, I mean, I guess I could speak to a couple of books that changed my life and my perspective on a lot of different things.
Yeah,
But the first book is the autobiography of Frederick Douglass. So that book, um, it convicted me, right? It kind of gave me. I spoke on this obligation that I feel that Black college students have to our communities, how we all have to our communities, right? But that book, reading, Frederick Douglass's story and everything that he went through, it literally convicted me to like, it's not even an option. I have to pour it back into my community because so many people before me have poured it into us, and they made ultimate sacrifices for us to just be here right now. So the autobiography of Frederick Douglass is a great one. And then I'll give another one, which is The Miseducation of the Negro by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. That was another book I read in college, and that was a turning point for me in my life, as I was the president of the Black Student Union. Well, not necessarily, not yet. I was heading to be the president, and a mentor of mine, Khalil Mazi, the president before me, gave me that book, and again, opened up a whole new world for me. In that book, they talk about, right, like why our communities are in the condition that they're in, and what can be done to turn them around. But it takes a re-education process in every aspect of our society that must happen. But those two books, The Autobiography of Frederick Douglass and The Miseducation of the Negro by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, are top tier. There are plenty
absolutely.
others, but those two are off the
Yeah,
top.
those are great. Those are great books. And I love how you talk about how those like really, really taught you and informed you in your own leadership style too, and you kind of carry them with you. I know for me, definitely, the autobiography of Malcolm X in high school was life-changing for me as well. So
Absolutely.
it's really important that we do read those.
Absolutely. Fun fact about Malcolm X, too. He was on the
Yeah,
debate team in prison.
that's
Yep. And
amazing.
Yep. And he said he credits debate as his baptism to public speaking, as he called it. He
Yeah,
said that's how he was able to think on his feet so quick and research and the whole nine. But again, the benefits of debate.
very cool. Thank you, Jerjuan. My last question is if anybody wanted to get involved with Umoja or donate to Umoja, how could they do that?
So actually, I see my team right now, they put it in the chat. So right there,
Yeah.
umojadebateteam.org/support us. On that page, you can find a donation link. You can find, I believe, a volunteer link on there. You find information. You become a part of the spreadsheet. You have volunteer opportunities. We send that out to you. But that is the route to go. umojadebateteam.org/support us. You can find any and every way to support us. We're on Instagram at Umoja Debate League. And also Umoja Village. Yeah, so Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, we're everywhere.
Yes. Thank you, Jerjuan. And thank you to our audience for having such incredible questions too and being so intentional. Jerjuan, thank you for being here. It has been such a pleasurable conversation to have with you and to hear more about your work.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we are going to close. And so it is so important that we continue to honor and reflect on the teachings of civil rights leaders. So before we close, I do have a few updates for our audience. As a reminder for anyone in our community who may be experiencing a need, our 211 helpline remains available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This includes resources like food, utility assistance, warming centers, and much more. We always maintain a running list of available services in the community and can connect you to the support you need. You can look up resources in your area with our 211 resource database at unitedwaysem.org/211 or call 211. So United Way for Southeastern Michigan has several exciting upcoming funding opportunities for community-based organizations and nonprofits, and we really want to share those with you today. So first, we have the Racial Equity Fund is now open for Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC-led organizations based in Washtenaw County, working towards eliminating racial inequities. Grant awards will range from $10,000 to $50,000, and applications are due tomorrow by 5 p.m. Next, we have the Responsive Basic Needs Grant. It's now open for 501c3 nonprofit organizations, also based in Washtenaw County. They have, organizations that have established programming in emergency food, homeless services, and benefit navigation support. And then grant awards will range from $15,000 to $40,000. Applications are due tomorrow as well by 5 p.m. Our third one is in collaboration with the Southeast Michigan Perinatal Quality Improvement Coalition. We have released a request for proposals for advancing healthy births, which is now open for community-based organizations working towards improving birth outcomes and also reducing and addressing health disparities. Grant awards will range from $25,000 to $100,000 and applications are due on January 3rd by 5 p.m. Sorry, not January 3rd, January 23rd by 5 p.m. And last but not least, we have April is Global Volunteer Month. Our volunteer engagement team is seeking to provide 10 mini grants up to $1,000 to support volunteer project supplies to nonprofit and community organizations throughout Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties. Grant applications are due by January 26th. For any of these funding opportunities and all upcoming funding opportunities, please visit unitedwaysem.org/grants-hub. And our next What's the Word Wednesday town hall is going to be next week on January 24th, and we'll focus on the power of building partner networks in Washtenaw County and provide food across our communities. So we will be joined by Markel Lewis Miller, the Director of Community Food Programs at Food Gatherers. Be sure to tune in for that town hall and more coming up. To stay updated on our upcoming topics and watch replays of previous town halls, please visit unitedwaysem.org/virtual town halls. Thank you so much, everyone. Stay warm and continue to live united.